Broadcasting from the business capital of the world, this is the Podcast Business News Network. The way she helps people is so incredibly unique, and I'm talking about transforming their lives, getting them unstuck, moving them into a mode of success. And she works with individuals, all different types, whether you're a business owner, whether you're a leader, whether you just want to up your game personally. And we're going to get into today how she uses your date of birth to even help you do that. She is our professional of the year. Sara Regester is back with us. How are you doing today?
I'm great, Steve. I'm really happy to be here today. And happy to talk about stress mastery in any conversation. And
that's the other part of you, where so many of us are dealing with stress, and you're somebody that takes it on and attacks stress and gets us into a state of productivity and positivity. I've talked to coaches before, not ones that specialize in minimizing stress, but I've also never spoke to one that uses your date of birth as maybe a starting point to get a little insight into what makes you tick. And that's something you do. Tell us about that.
Yes. And, I am a unique being in that I have a long history as a registered nurse and helping people with their sickness. That was my career for many years. And then I rewired because I love integrative medicine, which is the mind, body, spirit, holistic approach through Duke. And woven in that, I actually have studied a healing paradigm from a shamanic lineage for 22 years. And so when I do these sessions with my clients, there's a definite starting place that I know how to support someone. And my first step is to ask them their date of birth. And from there, I also ask, share with me a little bit about your health history. Mm-hmm. Nothing is too small, and I plot out kind of who is this person sitting in front of me, using paradigm training, bringing in my experience as a nurse and having that conversation for transformation as a health coach. And so I bring it all together, starting with the date of birth.
I do want to be clear in that I'm a big believer in what you do. In my mind, it almost translates to maybe astrology, where the date of birth and location are paramount into figuring out who somebody is and kind of what they do. Would you say that this has some undertones of astrology? So I believe we've lost her there on the connection. So what we're going to do here is we're going to take a short break and come right back. She's actually calculated my life or my insight into who I am and what makes me tick as an example. And because I gave her my date of birth, we'll get with that when we come back.
This is a car. No matter how much you kiss your lucky frog, wish on a star, do that thing you gotta do to get it to start, your car will eventually break down. And those repairs could cost you thousands, but not if you have Car Shield, like I do.
Car Shield is America's #1 auto protection company. Their administrators have paid out over $1 billion in claims and cover most vehicles from 5,000 to 150,000 miles.
I trust Car Shield administrators to pay your claims just like they paid mine.
I know cars break down. I don't want to pay for expensive repairs. That's why I have Car Shield.
Let's keep it real. No one wants to get stuck with unexpected car repairs. Have you looked at how expensive those can be? From the stress of the breakdown, getting towed, and then you're hit with the bill? It's basically a nightmare scenario, and nobody wants that.
With coverage through Car Shield's administrators, you'll receive 24/7 roadside assistance, courtesy towing, rental reimbursement at no additional charge. Plus, with Car Shield's nationwide coverage network, you can choose the mechanic or dealership of your choice, no matter where you are.
I've been a Car Shield customer for close to 7 years, had 3 vehicles covered, and they saved me close to $9,000.
The best thing about Car Shield is just about everyone can afford coverage with no long-term commitment. So there's no more excuses why you haven't picked up the phone and called. At the end of the day, when it comes to your car breaking down, Car Shield has got your back like nobody else I know.
If you're driving without a warranty, you have to call Car Shield.
Yeah, you do. I drive with Car Shield because they're the real deal. Do yourself a favor and give them a call today. Tell them I sent you. And remember, Car Shield cars go farther.
Protect yourself now against expensive auto repair bills. Call CarShield for a free and instant protection plan quote. Once your car breaks down, it's too late. Call 800-908-6126. 800-908-6126. 800-908-6126.
All right, we are back and talking with somebody who's got the insight on changing your life. Sara Regester is back with us. Spiritual teacher, life coach. Can you hear us? And we were it's funny, you got me on the edge of my seat because you use my date of birth to provide some insight as an example when you work with somebody on the coaching level. So what do we got here?
Yes, and so I was just sharing a little bit. I wrote the book on stress because I have been a stress junkie, and I wiped out my health numerous times. And so it really started me on this journey of the mind, body, spirit approach to health and wellness, where anyone sitting in front of me, whether they want, leadership, training to actually be more confident in their leadership, or they're having like lifestyle challenges with their stress in their life or a health problem. It doesn't matter. Everyone shows up the same for me. As I see this person sitting in front of me, I'll ask your date of birth. You kind of said, well, it's an astrology thing. It is a little bit in the sense that in my training from the healing paradigm I've been trained with, we actually use sun bear astrology. And sun bear astrology came from a Native American medicine man who had this vision, and I won't go into the details of it, but very simply, he came up with this alignment of the North American animals in the 8 directions that gives a connection to an individual's naturalness. These totems are something you're born with, whether you know they're there or not, and that's my job, is to reveal how they're there to support you to find balance, to find harmony, and to restore your health or your stress or your anxiety, whatever's going on. Because ultimately, we are physical beings, and we're here, learning how to engage with life, to evolve and grow through our lifetime. And some of us take a very spiritual approach to that in their connection to spirit and the practices and the seeking they do. People might have a very academic approach to how they're evolving and growing in their life, but I can really see where someone is and meet them where they are, regardless of their spiritual background. And so I start with the date of birth because I work with circles. I work with medicine wheels, with circular thinking. In these podcast sessions, I've actually picked up quite a bit of information that you've so openly shared with your audience. And you did share with me your date of birth, and so I did a little homework from last session to this one. And there's quite a bit here. This session that I offer typically is 90 minutes, and it's like this one-on-one workshop all about you. And you walk away with a much deeper understanding of how you are wired to evolve and grow, and where are you out of balance now that we could focus to make change, to actually bring things back into balance and bring healing. And so that's what's interesting, is when you're born in the year tells me one thing, and your age tells me something else. And so when I plot that out, for example, I won't share your age, but I will share what I know is to let everyone know. It's interesting that it doesn't matter. I see this all the time. It doesn't matter when you finish something, how you're dealing with your life. The timing is always perfect. That, when you have a change that you want to make or you have an epiphany moment, it's never too late. In complete alignment with how you are programmed to evolve and grow in your life, almost like a roadmap or a blueprint. General terms, from age like birth to 27, the way people learn is through experiences. So when you say to a little kid, don't touch that iron, it's hot, what do? They want to touch the hot iron because that's how they're going to learn. And then as we go along in our life, and from age 27 to 54, this is considered, on the soul's journey, like the adolescent time in your life. And for people in their 30s up to 54, it's about creating what is my stamp? Who am I in the world? Will I be married? Will I have children? What's my career? Like how they're building their life and how they're dreaming process of how they're going to live their, like creating their stamp is an important part of the life work. And at 54, you make another journey up into where you're considered in the soul's evolution finally an adult. And in this section of your life from 54 onward, things feel a little different because what's important is that fulfillment factor, that the things you enjoy and how you prioritize your life has a lot more to do with the joy factor and the fulfillment and the advancement or the raise. And so it's a much different way to prioritize where one would like to share their wisdom, share their legacy, and kind of find that meaning and purpose. And so for you, when you shared with me your date of birth, I can see that you're in this part of your life where you're reevaluating things to really think, okay, what do I want in my life? Where are my priorities? And, where's the heart there that really is what's calling me now, compared to other times in your life where it was about, the focus on work and career and family. And say that's the journey you're making. And I had said before, we move in these 27-year kind of big blocks of time, but every 3 years we have a new focus. And so for you, your focus that I can see that helps me support, where you are, is like landing in who you are as an elder. And what is that new story? Who am I now as a man at this stage in my life? And how do I want to create like this next chapter of my life? And so you've been working on that for the past couple of years, and on your next birthday, you'll go through a 9-month change cycle where it's really perfect to be making changes and different lifestyle choices and different priorities. It's like when we talked about catching the wave. If we fight chaos and change, it can be rough. But if we can align with the opportunity of chaos and change, we can actually ride the wave like a surfer and use that catalyst energy to move forward in a positive way. And so that's kind of where you're heading in your next birthday. But what I can tell you is right now you're still evaluating, what are my new priorities? What's the vision of where I want to go in my life going forward? Learning what I've learned, how do I want to use this knowledge in a way that will support me to really have the life that is fulfilling and joyful and healthy. So that's what I can say about your one part of your date of birth.
Is the can't wait to hear the rest, but let me rephrase that. I'm trying to get away from saying that I'm looking forward to hearing the rest. Can't wait is a negative. When you said, from, mid-50s, whatever the number was, in astrology, it's my understanding that they call that the second Saturn return. And the first one is when you're in your upper 20s. Is that kind of following the same principle there?
It is. It's a every 3 years you have a 9-month change cycle, but we always call it the big chaotic journey at age 27, 54, and then you have another one when you turn 82.
Wow.
A little ways down the road. And it's like it always plots out, where people have their career changes, where their divorces happen, where they had that big sickness or that big life event or where they moved. Like you can literally map it out in terms of what was up for you in your life right now. And, for me to share with you in this new chapter as this elder of this age, reevaluating your priorities for that new vision so that when you have your next birthday, you can launch forward to create that. What are you dreaming in now in this chapter of your life?
So you're deriving this from age and the second Saturn return. But me and my date of birth makes me a Virgo. So September, we're looking at next birthday. What are you seeing? What are you feeling? Just as an example, how this works for anybody.
Yeah, well, that part I can tell you is just generally where I start any session is let's see where you are in your moon cycle so I can see what's up for you. Because every time you move into a new quadrant of one of these small circles, there's a new focus. And every time you move 3 years, there's a bigger focus. And so I kind of fold that into my process of how I recognize where you are in your life now and kind of what's up for you so that I can support where you are in terms of your kind of roadmap of how you're evolving in your life. And it's fairly generic in the sense that it's a big picture of brushstroke. It's not like in the nitty-gritty. But then when you start sharing with me things, then I can see, oh, yeah, here it is right here. I can see that and how that is for you. And so that's one aspect. The other aspect that I looked at, that's when I made a connection, was about when you say you're a Virgo. So in the Earth astrology, that makes you a brown bear. And if we understand that human beings have free will, we make choices, not such good choices. We often learn from our mistakes. And for the most part, when we have health problems, it's where we're out of balance. And the health problem is often the teacher that helps us reflect, how do I need to change to get back into balance? So we're always in this process of getting in and out of balance by our human being nature. And so as we go, we learn so much from what we go through physically, whether it's our relationships, our career, our physical health, our money. You know, all those physical things are really strong teachers. And where that brown bear sits, the typical, it's not like a teddy bear. I don't know if you've ever gone on YouTube and watched videos of brown bears or grizzly bears, but they're similar. But the brown bear is like ferocious. And it's very strong and very, like it knows what it wants and how to get it. And so in the sense of the medicine wheel, that brown bear sits in the place of the dream of what you're dreaming into your life as a life process, opening those closed symbols or blind spots that you don't necessarily want to look at, but now you're in a time when you're ready to look at these things as you're kind of awakening spiritually. It isn't about where are those blocks and what's behind them so I can see where my greatest potential is. And it's how you're manifesting your life to create the life you want is the proclivity of the brown bear, because if you think about it, they're going into their sanctuary to hibernate all winter long. And so brown bear people are naturally very strong at manifesting their dream in their life, creating something from nothing, or how they can intend something and have it happen. And the other kind of interesting thing about brown bear people sitting in the Southwest, the way I see it, is that it's about space and distance. So you're likely, like I've seen your set and how your space is set up and how particular about the lighting and the positioning of things. If your space, it's probably set up in a way that is what works for you, and that's important about creating that space, but it's also your internal space. How do you center yourself and how you create distance from those things that you really don't want in your life anymore?
It's funny you should say that, Sara, because that has been in the past year my, how do I phrase this? My goal. The things that don't support me, putting space, whether it's people, whether it's situations. I'm an empath, as according to any strength assessment test I've ever taken, and that was, in the past year I learned that. So I put up the boundaries and the borders. So yeah, spot on. The brown bear I'm intrigued with because in Chinese astrology, I think I'm a water tiger. So I find that interesting, and when you said know what you want, I want to share this because it's in real time. You ever do a vision board?
Yes.
I've been wanting to do this for a year, 2, never get around to it. And part of me is like, man, what's the big deal with that vision board? I just put one up 2 hours ago.
2 hours.
Oh my gosh. I can't stop staring at it. It is like looking at a photo of a beautiful woman. It's like, and it's everything that, I'm looking for. And I'm going to make others, because you can't fit them all on there. And I figured more is, in that regard, more is better.
Right.
And I brought that up because it seems to align with when you said, know what you want based on my date of birth. And I'm looking at it like, yeah, I want that. I want that. I feel I can attain that. And when I look at it, I never thought I'd feel this way. I would have done it like years ago. When I look at it, it's like, yeah, that's it. So I'm just sharing that for everybody else. Do a vision board, just saying. Knowing what you want.
Okay. And here's the other story, because there's a lot more than you and I are going to talk about in this session, because I'm seeing a much bigger picture than we have time for. But opposite the wheel where you're growing into is the mountain lion or the cougar. And that's the conflict internally, spiritually, that has kind of been related, what I saw with the health challenges you've been going through. And so there's something where the alignment with that cougar, like it's a master hunter, stalker, leader, it's you stepping in your leadership, but it's like stalking out the dream that you want, stalking out, like actually executing the vision board is showing like how you're stepping into your self-authority, how you're like really going for that bigger dream, and that how you're using more of your internal resources to help you do that.
Yeah. I feel it. I feel it big. And a couple of things on this particular vision board, which mixes personal, professional. I feel right now I got to do one just for professional, because it's cool. What you feel when you look at it, it's like it's almost as if it's a mirror looking at you at your inside.
Yeah. And it's important, like, here's another little piece, like everything, I see everything through the lens of spirit, because that's my proclivity, where people sitting in front of me might not have a connection. They might not even be interested in hearing animal totems. And so it's important that I can find the context of the qualities that are who you are in your shining versus how you block yourself from that. But I can tell you that the work you do for anyone is a spiritual practice, in the sense that when you think how much time we spend at work, how much we grow through our careers and our leadership, like there's a primary vehicle of our own evolution and growth as a person that we gain from our identity and our career as working people. And so to have a vision board that aligns with where you want to go with your work is just really bringing into alignment the wholeness of who you are, that there's no separation between who you are at work and who you are at home. It's actually how you can integrate those that brings the fulfillment.
So what's your advice to me at this point in time based on the pieces of information that you have?
Well, what I can tell you is that and I wrote about this in my book, actually, The Courage to Shine, How to Feel Confident Outside Your Comfort Zone. There's a couple of chapters, but specifically about this concept of karma and dharma. And this is an evolutionary kind of cycle that's happening to everyone around us, whether they're aware of it or not. And very simply, it's a cycle that's coming into completion in the collective, where everything was kind of pre-written, predestined. You have this book of life, and you're kind of fulfilling what's written there for life lessons. And when you close that chapter and you open up a new book called the Dharma book, there's a lot of self-authority, self-responsibility that you need to write in that book, the lessons you want to learn and how you want to learn them. And that's pivotal, because there's a lot of people out there stepping into this bigger space, and they have no idea what tools or resources they need to support themselves. They just know they feel stressed and overwhelmed because the energy is fast. There's so many opportunities. How do I grab onto something? And so the foundation of my coaching is really to give people strategies about being more intentional and action-oriented, like taking more responsibility for their what they want to create in their life, and self-authority to actually take the steps to make it happen. And so from that perspective, when you shared with me your health challenges, I can see you're totally on that trajectory of that movement of what was the karmic way that's no longer working, and the demand for you to find new pattern, new timing that's going to support who you are now, that you're like more awake and aware spiritually or consciously.
I am. You're spot on. And even the health situation, which is completely in the rear view and all good at this point, that was a product of stress. I truly believe it. Most of that all came from or manifested based on previous stress from, call it the year before or years before. And I'm sure you can attest to that, based on you being a stress junkie trying to minimize that for everybody.
Yeah. Yeah. And when the minute you said your date of birth to me, I'm like, oh, that makes sense with that procedure you had from that diagnosis earlier this year, because that particular affliction sits on the medicine wheel in the same place as the brown bear, that southwest place, as well as the southeast, about self-concepts, your individuality, self-love, self-worth, self-deservement. Like, it all culminated in a snap for me about, oh, here's what needs to change. Here's where you're going. This is how you want to support yourself, because it's totally in your life. How you're talking about it is clearly a roadmap of where you're going, and I can see how to get there. And so, what you're sharing is you're already taking steps, and that's important to recognize. There's a bigger calling for you that you're listening to, and that was a wake-up call. Those health challenges often are what help us wake up to realize we've got to make some change.
Which I did. But unfortunately, when you decide to make that change, I don't mean this in a negative way. It's just the way of life. The damage has been done in terms of your balance being off. Call it stress. Whatever. It's like when people get skin cancer. The damage was done years ago from going in the sun. When somebody says, "Oh, you have skin cancer," make sure you put on sunscreen and wear a hat. Yes, you're right, but it was in the past, and that's why it's coming back. You sound like you're not surprised by my date of birth. In terms of the pieces all falling together. Am I right about that?
Yeah, and I am, because you've just been dropping information that I just hear through our conversations.
I have no secrets.
Yeah, well, that's what makes your show so interesting, is you're so transparent, and that makes it like people can relate when we can hear each other's stories, which is like why I had to talk about who I am as a stress junkie in my book, because it's like, hey, I've been there, people.
Yeah.
And there was another kind of theme that came up that was a bigger overlying, because I can't show you, we're on the phone, but, I have wheels I'm looking at that spins, and I'm overlaying things that I draw on paper. And there's a part that you've shared also about the waking up is the repression, the not speaking up, that pattern of the throat, and the things you had in that fifth chakra that you shared. And even in I won't make it more complicated, but there is something there about finding your voice, about stepping out of, taking the handbrake off in your life and really kind of putting the pedal to the metal to move forward. And that's really important for you to keep moving forward and to not put that handbrake on.
Nope, can't do it anymore.
Yeah, and then the other part is we talked about earlier about relationships to everyone appreciate. When you make changes in your life, your health gets better. And sometimes your relationships change too. And if those relationships change, that those key people can come along with you on the journey, or sometimes the changes we make, people kind of drop out of our life because we're not really feeling that alignment anymore. And so that's just part of being part of a collective is, we're always kind of moving down the stream here, and some people will be in our life for a long time, and some people will come and go, but it's often we hold back on making change because we're afraid of the loss of relationships or people or jobs. But truly, if we can trust that when one door closes, another one opens, we have to have trust in that, of the steps we're taking for ourselves, our own happiness and fulfillment are really important, but often we're the ones holding ourselves back. And so that's where my coaching helps people.
It is so true. And I wish I met you years ago. Because I would have learned all of this, but these things that we consider cliches are so true, and people still say them for a reason. For example, people in your life for a season or a reason. That's true. And sometimes we need to let it go because they're not meant to come with us on the journey. And I'll laser this down, but I don't know if I shared this. I had a skin cancer issue 3 years ago, literally 3 years ago. And I had radiation, and it was all good. It was a little challenge going through that. But the person I was with at the time came home. I was at their place, came back, and they said, "Oh my God, look at your face. Let me help you with that. I'm going to dressing. I'm going to do this. I'm going to do that." It was there. I had an epiphany. Actually, I had it a couple of months after that. And we lasted like 6 months, and that was it. It was fun. It was good, whatever. When I look back, it's like, oh, they were there because they were a nurse. They were there to help me through that, and I helped them through things, and that was it.
Yeah.
That was the reason for that particular season. But I found, and I think you'll attest to it, as life goes on, you start figuring those things out. I'm not I'm not just saying it. I think that's the way it was. That's the way I feel. That situation was there because I needed that person at that time. They needed me for things. But the awareness is amazing once you start doing the work.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and it's very important to recognize for you that with all these things that have happened to kind of make you be more awake and aware in your life, more curious spiritually, that's when we really start seeking the knowledge and to learn more, and it's like unquenchable thirst for knowledge. And that's a sure sign, that we're moving towards that dharmic phase of, how life becomes more expansive, but yet requires more self-responsibility to engage with it. And so we just need some new tools so we don't wipe ourselves out.
Yeah.
And we need to be able to reassemble our own internal wisdom from all the things we've done into, a tactic that will support us to keep moving forward.
You help people minimize stress and in turn help people even losing weight, eliminating or diminishing their health issues, just an overall feeling of wellness, letting things go from your past, all of this in terms of your coaching. But Sara, I have to tell you today, I realized one thing that I didn't realize previously in the times we've gotten together. Your emotional intelligence and what you teach, and also the spiritual side of you and how you harness energy. I had no idea. And now, after this conversation, using me as an example with the date of birth, now I see it. It's fabulous. It's really, really cool.
Yeah. And it's important to recognize that my gift is to see what created the pattern and how does the pattern need to change. Like, by looking at where it is in the 8 directions, it gives me the insight of how to support someone to actually make successful change in their life, to get back in balance. Ultimately, that's what we're looking for. So we can have more happiness, health, humor, hope, harmony. That's what we all want, more of that. And so, it's to get people unstuck, and often stress does wipe us out, as it did me. But it's like, how can you meet that in a way that will help you be productive to get through it, not just stuff it or ignore it? And so what you had 3 years ago was a little knock of spirit, a little wake-up call, and then it came around again a little bit louder. And so this is why we want to pay attention to when we have an opportunity to make a change, to start making those steps happen, or to reach out for support so we can make change happen.
This isn't just somebody coaching. This is somebody that also uses science, because astrology is a science, and those tools to support the people you work with as well. Sara, how do we connect with you? If somebody, even just to start a conversation, try to, see if it's a right fit, learn a little bit about what's going on, how do they find you?
Right. Well, my website is directions4wellness.com, and you can easily reach out from my website to set up a time for a consultation with me. We can see if there's a fit. And then also my book is available, at Amazon and Audible, The Courage to Shine, where you can read, my specific story about how I help people master their stress, and some important tools and tips that are also part of that book.
And of course, you were a full-time nurse. So there's a medical component that comes into play here as well. Sara, fantastic talking with you today. The website, directions, 4wellness.com. Learn so much about you. Really fantastic. And looking forward next time we get together.
Okay. Well, thank you, Steve.
Appreciate
Enjoy those vision boards.
Yeah, I'm staring right at it. I'm staring at your website and the vision board at the same time.
Oh, perfect.
They're next to each other. All right. Thank you so much. We'll be right back. Broadcasting from the business capital of the world, this is the Podcast Business News Network.
For nearly 2,000 severely injured veterans, everyday life has become filled with barriers.
Day-to-day simple tasks can become pretty daunting.
I have to carry my chair up 2 flights of steps or have somebody do it for me.
What scares me the most is just the falling.
When I'm struggling with my house, I think, to have that one great barrier just knocked down, it's crucial.
Home for Our Troops is a wonderful nonprofit that builds a mortgage-free, fully adaptive, handicap-accessible house.
And there's no catch.
It'll be our very first home that we've ever owned. This is a game changer.
This is where your life begins again.
We need you to join us in completing this important mission. Please visit hfotusa.org and help build homes and rebuild lives.
Because of you, everything's going to be okay.